All right. Well, I got a little introduction that I prepared, and I'm going to read it because I was scared I was forget something. So I'm just going to read it, and then I'm going to show you guys a little couple of video clips so you all have a good idea of what we're going to be discussing, and then we're going to get to it. So I have a special guest and a special show. Her name is Ruby Hall, and she has her attorney, Steve Kerrigan. She reached out to me recently and she informed me that she has also filed a lawsuit against the city of Aransas Pass and the police department the same week as CJ Grisham filed lawsuits for Jason Followell. So it immediately piqued my interest. And then when she told me her story, I knew I had to help her share her message and her story and shed some light on this situation. So her sister, Elisa Robertson, was kidnapped in Aransas Pass in 1989, and the Aransas Pass Police Department has completely failed to solve this. And her family, this case has now become a cold case. Excuse me. This has been a nightmare for her and her family, and needing closure, she has taken matters into her own hands, and she has hired a private investigator and a lawyer. Also, she recently paid for a billboard to go up in Aransas Pass and put her sister's picture on it with a $20,000 reward out of her pocket. She is doing everything in her power to try and bring some closure to this situation, and she has tried to work and reach out with the police department and get help, and they have refused to help her and have also demonized her and her family. The police department has had 35 years to solve this case, and they have failed. All of her public information requests have been denied, which is the basis of the lawsuit that they filed. And my question to the police department is, why not share the information you have with Ruby and the team she's put together and try to solve this case and bring some closure to them? Chief Blanchard actually did a Facebook live stream about a week ago. Let's watch that and see what he has to say. And then I'm going to show you guys a recent news clip also. So let me share these with everybody.
If you want to know the truth's available to you. It's out there. You can find it. If it pertains to the police department, public safety, or anything government-wise, I believe that the services that police, public safety, and fire provide today are better than this nation, and across the nation, are better anywhere across this nation than they ever have been. Accountability is more prevalent and present today than it ever has been. Transparency is greater than it ever has been. We've been a very transparent agency for the many years I've been here, and those of you that were here prior to my arrival, you could probably attest to that. I'll let you speak to that. I don't need to.
What better way to say we're not going away and we're here to stay and we're going to keep fighting for this than to put up that big billboard.
It's a face that hasn't been seen in over 34 years.
It's been a long, hard, painful road.
13-year-old Elisa Robertson vanished without a trace on August 6th, 1989.
We wouldn't wish that on our worst enemy.
Now her case is a daily reminder to those who drive by Aransas Pass on 35 every single day.
She had made arrangements with a friend to walk over and meet this friend at about 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And they were going to go meet halfway, which would have been right around Keyburger Elementary School in Aransas Pass. And Elisa never arrived.
The family's investigator, Richard Norgard, says at first police classified Elisa as a runaway, initially delaying the search until the next morning.
We believe that she ran into somebody on the way and got into a car and probably lured into a car by someone that she knew or trusted.
34 years later, no leads, no new information, no arrests. But her family has not given up.
This is our money. There's no GoFundMe. There's no donating. This is 100%. This is our money.
Increasing the reward for information leading to an arrest on Elisa's disappearance from $10,000 to $20,000.
Boom. She's made her entrance.
And putting up this big billboard up.
She's been raised on a pedestal now,
so that everyone in the area can see it.
There's somebody in Aransas Pass that knows. There's somebody, if not multiple people, that know what happened to my sister. And I'm convinced, and I'm more than 100% convinced that they're still in the area. somebody knows. And if that 20,000 will encourage them to just come forward, please come forward. You know, we've waited long enough. Enough is enough. It's just time. It's time that we bring Elisa home.
Why don't we start out with the lawsuit that you guys filed recently? You and your lawyer can discuss that, and then we'll go backwards from there.
Okay. I just wanted to say real quick, Harvey, that not all of our public records requests have been denied. That it's been really difficult to get the ones that we have been able to get. It's almost been a battle to get the ones that we have. They've put up quite a fight. And so, but we have received some.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to correct that.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. And I do want to make this point, and because I don't want this to have a negative effect with the police department. Our wish for this video is that they work with you guys, and you guys try to come together and resolve this issue, so you guys can have some closure. I don't want this video to be a heel video that makes the police department even more mad at you and they go further the other way. That's not the intention of this video. We're just trying to get as many people to see your story and share your story, and maybe somebody will have some information that can help solve it. That's the goal of this. So why don't you guys talk about the lawsuit that you recently filed?
Harvey, I will be glad to go first. Ruby has retained me to file, unfortunately, a lawsuit against the Aransas Pass Police Department. It's kind of sad and unfortunate that, in my humble opinion, that has become necessary. And I love what you just said. None of this, and certainly not the lawsuit, is an attack on this police department. It's really a legal plea, a legal cry for help and assistance and cooperation, and that's the way it should be. And we believe that if we come together and share resources, share information. Ruby has retained some excellent investigators and cold case resolving experts, and we believe that if we can have access to the police department's files, their records, DNA evidence, whatever they have, then we together, combining forces, can bring closure to Ruby and her family. And I will just add quickly that I did this in another locally known murder. It was the Gillette murder that took place in the 70s, even before Ruby's sister got lost. And same story, kind of deny. We got the lawsuit on file. The judge finally ordered it to be turned over. And that murder has not been resolved, but some good things have come out of it. It certainly prompted the police department into further action. I'm hopeful in that murder case, like I'm hopeful with Elise Roberson's case, that this legal action, and really more so Ruby's efforts and your efforts, Harvey's, and everyone's efforts, will turn up information that can get this case resolved.
I agree, because in that news report that we just watched, and I hope the audience was able to see it, but Ruby made a good point. Somebody in Aransas Pass knows what happened. I mean, whoever's responsible for this, they told somebody, and somebody has the information that's going to solve this case. So the more it's put out into the public and the more exposure, the better are the chances that you guys can get some closure. Ruby, what do you think?
100%. This is what we're trying to do now. We're bombarding. That's the reason we've been coming out the way we have been, talking to different podcast reporters, is because we want information to get out there, and we feel that that's been the problem. Is it feels like the family, we're the only ones that are really making that effort to get that information out. And that's what upsets me more is when you hear a police department telling you that we're working on it. We still haven't forgotten when they would talk to me, what little they would. And I apologize if sometimes my frustration comes out. I've always only ever wanted to be able to have an open dialogue and talk to them and get as much as we could. But it feels like our hands have been kind of forced in what we're doing to be able to do what we need to do as a family to resolve this case. But that's what we've always wanted. Our hope is just that the more that we talk, the more that people talk in the town, and I understand that a lot of people are talking, the more it's going to be put in their face, and it's gonna somewhere somebody knows. And so at some point, either their conscience or this is gonna get to them, and they'll come forward, or this reward money. And that's what we're hoping. We're hoping that reward money will encourage someone to say what they know, so that we can bring Elisa home. It's just, that's just what our main goal has always been, is just to bring my sister home. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. The whole, it's an active investigation. We can't speak about it. That works in the first year or two, maybe the first 5 years, but we're talking about 35 years have gone by now. I mean, you guys want to solve this in your lifetime. I mean, the fact, and Chief Blanchard, that live stream that he did about a week ago, he even answered a question about your case, and his answer was that he can't speak on an open investigation. It's been 35 years, man. I mean, you guys, come on, man. Something has to give. You guys have failed, obviously. And that works in the first few years, but not after 35 years. I mean, you guys have been dealing with this nightmare for 35 years. I mean, you want answers. And the fact that they won't share, all the heartache and now the money and the time that you have invested into bringing some closure to this, they should work with you. That's my opinion.
And that's the frustrating part about this, is we've only ever wanted them to work with us and to give us, help us. We understand that when there's an open investigation, I get that there are certain things that people can't, the officers can't tell us, but I really feel that this current, the original detectives and people who work the case, they work tirelessly, and I have a lot of respect for them. I know that they gave it their all, and even to this day, I speak to two of the original detectives on the case, Mike and Linda Thompson, and this is something that has forever haunted them, that they weren't able to bring Elisa home. But they have been more than open and honest, talking to me, giving me the information that I need, because they said that they're not getting any younger, and they want to share as much as they can with me while they're alive. And so that's the frustrating part. It's more the current police department that's been the main problem. I feel like every time I had called prior to now they won't talk to me at all, of course, but prior to now, it felt like I was a nuisance to them. I was bothering them. I was taking them away from their real job. This is how I always felt. I always got off the phone defeated every time I called just to ask for an update. All those pieces that you see in the news every year when the news stories would play on my sister's anniversary, that was me. That was me reaching out to all the news stations. It was always me. And so never has the police department or that I'm aware of in the recent years, it's always been me. I've called them. And that's how it feels. It feels like if it weren't for her family and loved ones, nobody would be seeing her face. Nobody would know about her. And that's what's been really frustrating. It feels like if you care so much, why don't you walk the walk? If you say you really want this case resolved and want some closure for my family, then do something. And I just feel like a lot of those words are hollow.
Absolutely. Steve, do you have anything you want to add to that? Did anything come to mind while you were listening?
Well, I just echo and endorse everything, and again appreciate your efforts, Harvey, and giving Ruby yet another platform to get this message out. But
Absolutely.
Ruby is just so passionate about it and so articulate that I don't even pretend to say it better than Ruby does. And you can tell when you hear she feels it, she lives this every day, every minute. And I just echo her pleas. I filed a lawsuit and not near as articulately, but in legal terms, it's the same plea. 35 years is enough. You've had your chance. Please scoot over, give us some room at the table, and let's see if we can't work together to get it resolved. And lawsuits sometimes open up other channels of communication that for whatever reason may not have been open before, whatever reason their lawyers maybe feel safer in talking legal matters with me. But I'm hoping that among other things, maybe it will open up some lines, new lines of communication. And if someone with the Port Aransas Police Department or city is hearing this, please give me a call. We can talk lawyer to lawyer. It's not an attack on the police. We're not trying to make anybody look bad. We're trying to bring closure to Ruby's family. And that's it, period, end of story.
Absolutely. And trust me when I say they are going to be watching this. I guarantee you that. And I hope they reach out to you and you guys can work together. That is the goal of this. And I do agree what Ruby has done to try to bring closure to this. It's very inspiring, and she has been a dedicated soldier, and she has been focused, and it's just, she's a hero in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But so what I want to do now is, Ruby, can you take us back to the day where in 1989, the day that the abduction happened, and just kind of explain, I mean, the facts of the case and any of the suspects. I mean, name all the suspects, all the players, maybe street names, landmarks, anything that might ring a bell in anybody's mind to bring them back to that day.
Sure, sure. So it was a Sunday afternoon. It was August 6th, 1989. My sister had just spent the afternoon with a friend, her best friend, and she'd come home about now keep in mind 35 years, there's a lot of information, and sometimes things are skewed along the way. Things get kind of one thing gets heard on the newspaper one place and then it just gets regurgitated. So that's the one thing I've noticed is just the information, that's one thing we've had to battle, is just basic information from the, of the original details of the case. But some of the newspapers say that she had left the home around 4:30, but she'd come back home about 5:30. She left her friend's house. Her friend was getting on the church bus. It stopped at her house about 5:20. And then Elisa was going to go with her to church, but she decided last minute she was going to come home. And so it was about a 10-minute walk from Charlotte's house to our house. And then Elisa came home. She was done for the day. She was going to stay home, but we got a phone call, and it was our friend, or Debbie Green. She was a friend of the family, her dad, mom and dad, and it was one of those things where we were just close to the family, and Debbie had just asked Elisa if she could if she could come and play. And my mom asked Elisa Elisa asked my mom if she could go play, and she just my mom told her no, that it was getting too late, it's time to stay home. And Debbie said, well, if you can come, I'll meet you halfway, and then my dad will bring you home. And so my mom agreed. She goes, okay, well, if that's the case, then it'll be okay, because it's getting late. She didn't want my sister to be walking in the dark. And Debbie's house to the school, and you'll have to forgive me, I haven't refreshed my memory. I think it was about 8 blocks from our house to Debbie's house, but from our house to the school they were supposed to meet at, Keyburger Elementary School, it was about a 6-minute walk. And so when she left, we had neighbors, who had seen her, 3 neighbors who had actually talked to her along the way. Other neighbors further down Goodnight Street had seen her. So when Debbie had gotten to Keeper Elementary School, Elisa wasn't there. And this was the time before cell phones. So of course, in order for her to call and check, she'd have to go back to her house and use the landline. And from 11th Street to Keyburger Elementary, I think hers was about more like a 10-minute walk. So she went back home, gave us a call, asked if Elisa was still there, if she had left yet, and wanted to know if she was still there because she wasn't at the school. And my mom was in the background. I answered the phone and my mom was in the background. She heard me talking to Debbie and Debbie asking that question. And my mom said, "Tell Debbie she should be with you right now." And there was a little bit of panic in her voice. She should be with you. She's not here. And so Debbie said, "Well, I'm going to go back to the school and check to see if maybe she's there. Maybe she stopped to talk to a friend." So Debbie went back again, another 10 minutes, looked around, went back to her house another 10 minutes. So she calls a second time to say, "Elisa's not there. I can't find her. Is she there?" And we said, "No, she's not there." And that's at that point, I think we really started to panic. And she says, "Well, I'm going to wait for my dad to come home. And then when he comes home, we'll go out and look for her." And so at that point, my mom told me to just start calling Elisa's friends, just start calling. And we started calling her friends. And that's how we found out that our real good family friends, there were 3 of them, Jennifer Taylor, her brother, Nathan Pierce, and their dad, they were outside. It was a nice evening. They were outside cleaning their camper, and all 3 of them talked to Elisa and acknowledged her. And she told them she was going to go. She was walking down to see Debbie, to go visit with her. So we found that out, that they had seen her. Our neighbors next door said they had seen her when she was walking past. So we've got a number of witnesses, even witnesses since we've come out with our campaign in the last 6 months, 2 more witnesses who've come forward saying, "Oh yeah, I actually walked with Elisa as I was walking my 2 boys over to their friend's house. Elisa was coming out. We just met and I saw her that night." So we've got quite a few witnesses. But what had happened along the way, and I don't want to get too much into that, but somewhere along the way, again, with rumors and skewed information, the police department took it and they ran. And what they did to my family in 2016, I will never forgive them for what they did to my family. I will forgive them and put it aside to work together. But what they did to my mom, what they did to me, it's something that it was so traumatic. We haven't fully recovered from that whole experience. And it was not even, we were so blindsided by the whole incident, coming down to Aransas Pass, thinking we were coming down and, to be part of the, Texas EquiSearch came in, and that was a whole fiasco. And by the time it was all said and done, we were being accused. My mom was being accused, and with no basis to this, but somebody's words.
Okay.
And I don't know.
Can we back up 1 second, Ruby? Because there's actually a podcast that has covered this in depth. What was the name of that podcast again? It's on Prime, right?
Yeah, it's Gone Cold podcast.
I listened to it today, and it is powerful, and it's very professionally done. Okay, so there was a suspect. Okay, the suspect his name was Bob Green, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
So Bob Green is the dad of the little girl my sister was going to meet that day. I don't want to get too much into suspects because I kind of leave that to Richard.
Okay.
I can just say that the original detectives on the case, Mike and Linda Thompson, have always believed that Bob Green was the person they were looking at. So that I'll leave that at that. I don't want to get too much into that because it gets really
Okay. Yeah,
messy.
let's move on. But
Um,
you were talking about how badly the police department treated you, but
mhm.
wasn't it Bob Green's daughter that started pointing the finger at you guys? And then what you were referring to as them treating y'all so badly, they started treating you guys as suspects and interrogating y'all. Am I correct on that?
Exactly 100%.
Okay.
100%. And we were so oblivious to what was going on. It was almost like we walked into a trap, and it was just a combination of several things that were happening at that time that made us vulnerable. It made us very, all we wanted to do was go down and be a part and support. Um,
And y'all were going to set up a memorial that day, correct? Y'all came from out of town to set up a memorial for your sister, and that's when the police department targeted y'all. And that was in 2016, correct?
That was 2016. So two
Okay.
things happened that year. We were going down to fix up my sister's memorial at Keyburg Elementary. We've got a memorial there, and Texas EquiSearch decided they would get involved, and that was a whole other mess right there in and of itself. And the whole thing was so wrong on so many levels, professionally speaking. The way they handled the whole situation and the way they handled my mom and I, and there aren't even enough words to speak the damage that caused, not only to us emotionally, our family emotionally, but also to the investigation, because now there are people out there. That seed is planted. So once that seed's planted and it's put out there, there's no way it's out there, and there's no way to undo it. And there's no way to take it back. They have done the damage, both Texas EquiSearch, this individual who, whatever her motives are, whether it's just to make us look away from her dad and put the blame back on us. I don't know her motives entirely, but that's the only thing I can think of because of the harassment that's been happening for years. And that was another thing I had talked to Steve about, is this individual. And so it's just unbelievable to me, the amount of energy one person can put into destroying a person's character and our efforts at every level, at every turn. And the reason I'm so upset is because the Aransas Pass Police Department could squash all of that, could just end it all by just making a statement. That is all they had to do in 2016. That is all they had to do. And they came and did their damage. They did their mess, and then nothing was said of it. Nothing was said of what was discovered, what was found. It was like silence. And I think, wow, they did their damage and then they went and hid, because I think what had happened was they found nothing, because there was nothing to those claims. But they were humiliated.
Texas
So
EquiSearch, they actually went to where y'all used to live, you and your family, and they actually bought an excavator out there and dug holes, busted up concrete, used ground penetrating radar. I mean, so they completely turned the investigation on y'all.
yes.
And that had to have been very traumatizing for
It was
y'all.
very traumatizing. And a Texas EquiSearch volunteer began harassing my family, began going on social media, and you can find it, going on social media, talking about what was done. And Texas EquiSearch signs a strict confidentiality. Everything is strictly confidential when there's a search that's done. You're not supposed to post on social media about anything about the case. And this lady, Christina Villarreal Pena, who was a Texas EquiSearch volunteer, made it very, very clear on social media that she had been a volunteer and she was there on the search. And she has 100% has claimed that my sister's remains are in that home. So this is the damage these people are doing. For whatever their motives are, I don't understand. But if you're going to tell me that somebody's body is supposedly remains are still in a location, and the police department walks away, it's just ridiculous. And I'm sorry that I'm getting upset. I just feel like
No, you're fine.
People need to be called out for their bad behavior. We don't behave this way. You're not supposed to do this to there's just no words for it. And when I get worked up, I just can't believe that professional people who should know better and who are handling this case and have caused so much damage to so many people involved and to the case itself. And it's taken us years to recover, and also years in an investigative perspective to try to regain that trust again. A lot of people don't want to talk to us when there's been so much drama.
Yeah, they kind of ruined y'all's reputation.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
when you say these people keep pointing the finger at us and have turned the police department against y'all, you're referring to the alleged suspect's daughter, Bob Green. That's what the podcast said. Okay, and according to the podcast that I listened to, this guy Bob Green, there's a lot of rumors circulating around him that he was a pedophile. Can you elaborate on that any, or do you not want to discuss that? I mean, it's all alleged, just rumors. We're not saying that he is actually, for a fact, a pedophile, because legally.
All I can say is all anybody has to do is FOIA request his name, and that'll give him the information they need. So
he has a criminal record based on
that's
this.
all they have to do is do a
Okay.
public records request, and
Wow.
they'll find the answers. I know that as
So
a
he has a
child.
past. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And
I'm
I
sorry.
don't
I
want
didn't.
to.
I didn't
No,
mean to
no.
interrupt you. I'm just
Oh,
trying
no,
to.
you're fine.
I'm just, I'm just trying to keep the audience engaged and, let them know when you're saying things, let them know what you're talking about.
Sure, sure.
But if you just want to pick up where you were left off, I didn't mean to interrupt you on that. If you remember.
This is the only reason that we can think why this person would be attacking us so viciously. This Debbie Green.
It's her father. So, okay.
So that's the only. I don't want to necessarily say who we believe or not, because it's just that's just the only thing we can think of why this is happening.
Let me re-clarify before I forget, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but
That's okay.
their claim is that something happened to her at your house, when there is numerous witnesses that are not even in your family that said they saw her leave and walk toward their house that day. Numerous witnesses. Am I right or am I wrong?
Several. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people who were not in our home. And then since we've started putting out podcasts, 2 more people had come forward. So we've got 7, 8, 9, not including family members, who witnessed her walking down Goodnight Street towards Keyburger Elementary. And
seven independent, unbiased witnesses, y'all. That is huge. Continue, please, Ruby.
Mm-hmm. And this is what blows me away. These people were also talked to by the police department early on. A lot of our neighbors, a lot of our friends, and they told them that they were aware of that. This is information that they know. They know this information, and this is what blows me away. I just can't even get. I can't comprehend how in the world things have turned the way they have turned when we've got so many witnesses, people who've known Elisa for years. Our neighbors, our other neighbors on the other side. These are people who've known Elisa for years. They knew it was Elisa, and they talked to her. And so that's what I can't even comprehend. My mind can't wrap my head around how, the stupidity of the allegations that she never left our house. I'm just blown away. And so,
who was the chief of police back in 2016 when they targeted you and your family? It wasn't Chief Blanchard, was it?
I actually am not aware I don't know who the chief of police was at that time. I'm not sure. I know that Captain Kyle Rhodes was the investigator over the case, the main investigator over the case. And so Captain Kyle Rhodes and Texas Ranger Tony DeLuna, they're the ones that interrogated my mom and I, and they're the ones that administered a polygraph on my mom, in Corpus Christi. And she just told me by the time she was done with them, she came out. They had us so. All I can say is that there was some cluster mind game, and I'll try not to say bad words, but it was a cluster. It was just a cluster of everything that could go wrong, did go wrong. And they have you so confused. And I'm familiar with the read techniques of investigators, what they use to get a confession. And everything on there, everything that I read that they did, the isolating, making you tired, when you're vulnerable, trying to turn family members against each other, putting a wedge between you, telling you that your mom said this, you're telling my mom that I said this. They had them both. My mom was thinking that I was saying things about her. I was so confused by the time that whole thing was done. And then they told me that they were accusing me. They said that I witnessed my sister's murder, and that I was covering for my mom, or that I had blocked the memory, and that I needed to come clean. So they were accusing me and my younger brothers as well, and of course my mom of killing my sister. So those are serious allegations.
Yeah,
Those
and
are
that's
really-
another technique that they used is they're allowed to lie to you in the
Oh, yeah.
interrogation room. So all that stuff that they
100%.
were saying to you guys was all lies, but they're allowed to do that.
100%. And when they told my mom she failed the polygraph, I don't buy it for 1 minute. I don't buy it for 1 minute that she failed the polygraph. She took a polygraph in 1989 and passed it. But you know what? There's a reason why polygraphs aren't used in a court of law, because they're not, you can't count on them. There's so many factors that play into that. So I don't for 1 minute believe that she failed anything. And they have not been forthcoming in that polygraph test either. We want to see the results. But 100%, I believe they lied to my mom to get a reaction.
I actually failed a polygraph test one time myself. Back when I didn't know my rights, I was trying to be cooperative. I was accused of a crime. They said I failed, and I ended up getting up and walking out. I cussed them out. I said, "You guys are going to owe me an apology one day because I didn't lie to you," and I left upset. 4 months later, they found the guy that actually committed the crime, and they never apologized to me. That was Biloxi Police Department, by the way. Mr. Attorney at Law Steve Kerrigan, do you have anything you want to add about the polygraphs or anything that you've heard so far? We'll give Ruby a break. Let her collect her thoughts.
I'm just fascinated by the conversation between the two of y'all. But yeah, quickly, yes, I totally agree about the unreliability of the lie detector test, and clearly that's why they have ever and repeatedly been deemed inadmissible. And the interrogation techniques you're talking about are just give chills up and down my spine. It is just so wrong and so unfair. And I think, and probably with your help, Harvey and others, I think that's being cleaned up some, but there's a long ways yet to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Ruby, do you want to continue on with the story? I kind of
I'm so sorry. I got sidetracked too. I'm so sorry. I do.
It's not your fault.
Yeah. So, and then so that night, we couldn't find Elisa. I was making phone calls. And then at some point, then Debbie's dad gets home and he calls my mom and asks her, "Is Elisa home?" And my mom said no. And he said, "We're going to go out and look for her. You stay put just in case she comes home. We're going to go look for her." So they went looking. I don't know how long. It's been 35 years has been a long time. So it's hard to remember certain things. But by the time they came to our house, it was getting dark, and they said they couldn't find her. And then at that point, they asked if she was here at our house, and we said no. And that's when Debbie's dad said, you need to call the police. And so my mom had me call the police because my mom didn't speak English very well. So she had me call, and it says, I've been able to access the report, and it does say that, the initial call, it does say that, my sister hasn't come home yet. My mom would like a police officer to come and talk to her. And that was at 9:49 p.m. that night when they came to the house. It was one police officer that I remember, and he took the report, just basically said she should be coming home soon. She's probably at a friend's house. And then, of course, she didn't come home. And the next morning, that next morning, my mom, with us 3 little kids in tow, took us to the police department. And My sister was my mom's translator. So she was the oldest and she would translate for my mom. And now Elisa wasn't there. So then I had to step up to the plate and be my mom's translator. So when she came in first thing that morning, there I was helping my mom. So I remember that vividly, coming into the police station. I remember, oh my God, I'll never forget my mom's cries. I'll never forget my dad's cries. You know, it's the most painful. That's so visceral to me, you know, to hear when I remember that deep guttural pain that both my parents felt. Like this isn't something you fake, you know. Their daughter was gone and they couldn't find her. And I remember being questioned early on as a little 12-year-old by the police. I remember Bob Green becoming pretty upset and walking out and taking his daughter, you know, and wife with him, and refusing to talk to the police, which I don't blame him. I've had my experience where now I realize I can walk out and I don't need to be afraid. Those are, you know, so he had a right to walk out. And then next thing you know, we've got a bunch of people at our house, search and rescue dogs. They're in our house coming in and out. We've got bloodhounds, cadaver dogs. They take some of Elisa's belongings, and they follow her scent all the way down to past Keyburger Elementary School. So they followed her scent. That should be documented. It was the police that initiated that. So I don't know how they, you know, what went wrong.
That's more proof that she left the house.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the cadaver dog followed her down the street, and then in the middle of the street in a random spot, the scent disappeared, which would
Yes.
insinuate that a car picked her up. Correct?
Yes. And so we had they had bloodhounds, and they also had cadaver dogs. So we've got cadaver dogs outside all around our house. And you're going to tell me that they missed these cadaver dogs that are trained to find dead bodies. You're going to tell me that they couldn't detect that my sister was killed in that house. It's just, I don't even understand the thought process. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I've remembered the question that I was going to ask a minute ago when Steve was talking, and then I had a brain fart. But I remember the question now, and I'm sorry I keep interrupting you, Ruby.
No, you're good. You're good.
But my question is when they in 2016 is when they interrogated you and your family.
Mhm.
How long was the interrogation that they interrogated y'all for?
My mom said it felt like 3 hours. It felt like a long time because it was like they were asking us, in my experience, when I was in there, they were asking me the same question in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And they were trying to, by the time it was done, I realized what they were trying to do. They were trying to get me to somehow say that my mom was a violent person and that she did something. So they would ask me questions about being, did she ever hit you? Did she ever, just a lot of questions about whether or not she struck us or she beat us or this or that. And I thought, wow, I looked over to them and I'm like, wow, to text, and excuse this reference. I was talking to Texas Ranger Tony DeLuna, and I says, well, you're Mexican. You should know. You were raised by a Mexican mother. It's like there's just no way to explain it. They're tough. My mom was a single mom. There was a lot going on, and you have to be strict. And you know what? How many of us haven't gotten a SWAT or a SWAT in the backside or a switch or even a little what are you thinking? And that's that. It was the day and age. Can we speak to that? Right? That our parents, we got swatted a few times, right?
Yeah.
So I almost felt like they were trying to get me to say that my mom was a violent person and that she had beat us and that Elisa was somehow hit or beat. And that's another thing.
That's exactly what they were doing. They had put their sights onto y'all, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. And we were just completely unaware of what was happening.
Did they interrogate anybody else that you know of? And if they did they interrogate them to the extremes that they did you and your family? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not sure of everything that went on in 1989. I know they called in several people and talked to them. I don't know what happened in 2016. If it was just me and my mom, we were just oblivious, thinking we were going to go in and go through the timeline and talk about just little things here and there. My mom said it felt like 3 hours that I was talking to them, and then they called her in, and you know, when it's so traumatic, it's hard to remember, like, were we there like 1 hour, 3 hours? It seemed like she said, it felt like 3 hours. Whether or not it just was a long time that
Yeah.
they were talking to us.
Wasn't there more suspects in the area than, weren't there multiple, how can I put this? Weren't there multiple suspects in the area that had past that had to do with inappropriate things with little children?
There were some other individuals that they looked at that had some history. I can't speak to the fullness of that, of who exactly was talked to. I know there were several people in the area.
Yeah. On the
And I don't
podcast,
want
it mentioned at least 3 suspects that I remember, um, with shady past. And I mean, am I right when I say that, or am I mistaken?
I can't remember the third one. I know they looked
Okay,
at
there's
some.
2. There's 2.
There's
Okay.
Yeah, and without going too much into detail, my mom had a really abusive boyfriend who she had been trying to break it off with. He had ties. He was involved in criminal behavior. He had ties in drugs, and he just was a dangerous individual.
That
And when
ex-boyfriend? Or
yes,
so he wasn't living with y'all at the time?
no,
Was he there at the house that day?
no, he
Okay.
wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't. She was trying to break ties, but he was just so, he'd just show up. He was the type of person, she'd tell him not to come back, but then he'd just show up randomly. So he was very sadistic, and he enjoyed watching the pain, and he loved making people nervous. And so that was something that I think he liked to do, is to taunt my mom and to just show up randomly to make her feel uneasy. But he was a
Did he ever
very
try
abusive.
anything inappropriate with you?
Oh, with all 3 of us, all
He
3 of
did?
us. He was, yes, and the 2
So
times
he's a
that my mom,
viable suspect, correct?
yes, without going too much into
Okay.
detail, that is somebody that my mom from day one always believed that was responsible. My mom even reported him to the police twice on 2 incidents for
Okay.
that, and also reported him for several assaults. And there was only one arrest and one assault that we were able to find when we pulled the public records. So we were just shocked that as many times as we called the police, and my mom made reports, that we can't find those reports. So I don't know what the Aransas Pass Police Department did with them. I don't know if they got rid of them after a certain amount of time. I don't see why you would. I mean, I don't understand why you would get rid of those kind of records. And so they have, and this is what I've been fighting with, is why, where are those records? I mean,
Absolutely. Steve, do you have anything you want to add, or no?
Well, just that you may get a feel underneath what Ruby is saying, why it is so important that we get access to, and in fact, cooperation with the Aransas Pass Police Department. It's just clear how helpful that would be to get so many of these questions answered, and again, to combine resources, and let's get this done, guys.
Absolutely. That's the goal. We are reaching out to the Aransas Pass Police Department to work with Ruby and her lawyers and her private investigators, and y'all work together and solve this. That is the point of this.
Yes, sir.
So we have been live streaming for 52 minutes. Is there any key points that you want to discuss, Ruby? Because I want to try to keep this under an hour. So I'm just going to let you bring up anything that you think is important. Go ahead and bring that up.
we're just speaking to the Aransas Pass community. We're just hoping that somebody will come forward, and somebody would have courage and speak the truth. You know, Chief Blanchard talks a lot about speaking the truth and the community. He used a lot of strong language when he was talking about people eviscerating him and bullying him and you know, all these horrible things. But you know what? Our family has been through the same thing, and it's and in part, Aransas Pass Police Department is responsible for that. And they would, if they would just make a statement and just so that we can focus on what needs to be focused on. But we have been also the same way he's been torn apart by wolves, and how he explained it. I can't remember his exact wording, but that's how we've been. And they're in part responsible for that. But we just want someone to come forward and just, you know, our family has suffered long enough. You know, 35 years is a lot, and it's just we just want answers, and we just want to find Elisa and bring her home, and we just hope that somebody listening is maybe their conscience will come forward, or if somebody can remember something of that time that was going on that they may not think is important, just please reach out to us and just help us out. Just help us out.
I just put the email in the chat, missingalisa1989@gmail.com. If anybody has anything, I mean, just something that you might not even think is an important detail, might be the detail that solves this case. So email anything, any thoughts, any rumors that you hear anybody talking about this case, email that Gmail account and put the information there for Ruby and her lawyer and her private investigator to follow up on that lead, even if you think it's not important. Steve, what do you think about that, Steve?
I think that's exactly right, Harvey, and God bless you for allowing Ruby this important platform. And City of Aransas Pass Legal Department, please call me. Let's establish yet another line of communication. Maybe we talk the same language. Please explain to me. I don't understand, but I want to listen and understand your concerns about allowing access to these files, cooperating with us. And maybe if you talk to me, we can better understand where you're coming from and work together to make this a win-win-win situation.
Yeah, let's build a bridge between your team and
Yes,
the
sir.
police department and work together.
Yes,
And
sir.
you know, the police department has a chance to do something. There's been a lot of negative focus on that police department lately. They could actually turn this into some good publicity. You
Absolutely.
know, if they were smart, they would take this invitation and work with you guys, and that would give them some good press. They've been getting a lot of heat lately.
We are chomping at the bits to give them good press.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I would love to see a good story come from that city and that
Yes,
police
sir.
department. I would love to see this come to some kind of resolution or some kind of closure for Ruby and her family. I mean, it hurts my heart to even hear this story. So I know it's been eating at you for 35 years. Bless your heart, Ruby.
Thank you, Harvey. Thanks so much for letting me tell my story and allowing us both to be on. Thanks so much, Steve. You've just been really great to work with, and kind of given our family a voice. So
Absolutely.
you're an important part of this too. And then, you know, thank you again.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you want to say before we end it, or do you think we've covered all the ends? Or
I think we
yeah.
covered it. I
All
probably
right.
talked too much, so I'm
No,
sorry.
you didn't. You did not. You absolutely did not. I mean, we could go longer, but I know how YouTube viewers are when they see a video, and if it's 2 hours long, I don't have that much time. They won't click on it. So that's why
Right.
I wanted to get as much information in in the shortest period of time as possible. And we're almost at an hour now, so I think
Okay, perfect.
for getting this message to more people, I think we should go ahead and end it. Thank you, Steve
Perfect.
Kerrigan.
Sir, thank
You
you,
seem
Harvey.
like a great guy. What state do you practice law in, Steve? Everybody needs lawyers.
Well, and when you need one, you'll appreciate one.
Yeah.
The great state of Texas, Harvey, and
Wow.
my primary law office is in the Nueces County, Corpus Christi area. And if you got a legal question or legal issue, I know I'm not using this as an advertisement. Call me. But I want to echo real quick what you said. Greatest admiration and respect for Ruby. It just and like you, Harvey, this just touches my heart. And I pray daily that we will have the breakthrough we're looking for.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you want to share your email address with the audience, or would you rather not, Steve? It's up to you.
No, I'd love to. It's S as in Steve Kerrigan, Carrigan, at 3 letters, CCA, that's Cargo Alpha, trial, TRIAL, law, LAW.com.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'm going to end it. Everybody that's in the live chat and the people that will be watching later, please email missingalisa1989@gmail.com if you have any information. And good night to everybody.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank you,
Harvey.
Harvey.
Good night, Ruby. Good night, Steve.
Good night, Ruby.
Mhm.